So the subject today is, do you need to stop thinking in order to get to non-duality? So when I was a practicing Buddhist, that is what I believed. I really thought that enlightenment was the end of thinking. I thought it was a lot more complicated than that, but I thought it was the end of the most of the mundane thinking in which you experience. So I used to think that non-duality or waking up was about not thinking. That's what they teach in Buddhism. Well, that's what they taught me in my Buddhist group. I'm sure if you advance more, maybe they'll begin to deconstruct that, but at the level I got to, that's what they taught. Sorry, sometimes it takes me a while to get speaking. I know that sounds really odd. Once I get going, I really enjoy it, but sometimes it's like I have to encourage myself to speak about this subject. Or if I'm in conversation with someone, so if someone's asking me questions or if I'm doing it gets going, but sometimes when you start these talks, my desire is to be really genuine. It doesn't always come to just talk. Like I could just talk about the subject on automatic, but I try to line it up with my body so I'm being genuine. It's not just like a mental thing, like I've got to talk, force myself to talk, and then they will listen. I try to do it energetically so that the whole system is like speaking. And maybe that sounds weird. So most of humanity aren't aware of this, but who they think themselves to be is a thought. They don't know that. They wouldn't ever admit that and say, oh yes, I'm a thought. That's who I am. They feel like they're a soul inside the body, because with thinking comes particular feelings, and it makes it feel like there is somebody inside here and that there is somebody experiencing the world. So they wouldn't say they are a thought, or that they think themselves to be a thought. They would say they're this multi-dimensional person, which maybe they believe is a soul, which is living this life in order to go to heaven or hell at the end of the life, or to some other thing, maybe to be reborn into another life, whatever. But actually what most people believe themselves to be is a thought. So you might think yourself to be a kind person. You might think yourself to be a bad person. You might think yourself to be a happy person. You might change between all those three, thinking one thing one day and another thing another day. You might think yourself to have lived a long life. You might think yourself to have lived a successful life, or a rubbish life, or a rich life, or a poor life. You might think yourself to be beautiful or ugly, or fat or thin, or tall or short, or racist, or what's the opposite to racist when you're encompassing? Forget that word. When you're open to everybody. There's so many things that you might think yourself to be. And if I were to ask most people who they are, they would name a thought. They would say, I'm a kind person, or I'm a rich person, or I'm a lawyer, or I'm a doctor, or I'm a road cleaner. So who they'd describe themselves to be would be sentences, would be thoughts. So that's what most people think themselves to be, but they're not conscious of it. So maybe now you think that you're somebody sitting there listening to me speak, but that's not true. That's a thought and a title that's simply appearing in your imagination. And actually it's more mysterious than that. It's unknown what you are. There is simply this happening. And you can't say you're the body, because the body doesn't exist now. What exists is Lisa speaking to you, and the computer, and the room, and the light, and the windows, and the dog, and the sofa, or whatever is in your perspective. The light, the light, the light, the light. And all of that is, all of what you believe yourself to be is a thought, and that thought comes with an energy. So if you say you're a doctor, maybe that makes you feel really good about yourself. So maybe you get a pump of positivity in your heart chakra or in your solar plexus, like it makes you feel special. So you get a feeling that comes along with that. Or if you think that you're a bad person, maybe you get a pump of like anxiety in your sacral chakra or in your throat chakra, and that's who you feel yourself to be. Maybe you think you're ugly or not special enough or not worthy, and in that there will be pumps of emotion in the chakras when you think that. And then some thoughts are kind of going on unconsciously. You kind of think them, but you're not conscious of them. So it's giving you a feeling of who you are. And that's who most people believe is them. But actually who you are is this experience, is the experiencing, which never moves. The thought of you and the feelings of you are always coming and going. So if you think that you're the best person there is to be alive, that comes and goes. If you think of yourself as a bad person, that comes and goes. If you think of yourself as a mad person, that comes and goes. But what doesn't come and go is experiencing and this sense of being, this isness, this alive presence, and the experiencing that this is, it's happening. And that never goes. That was there when you were 1, that was there when you were 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. It was there when you had good times, bad times, you were angry, you were psycho, you were lovely, you were kind, you were generous, you were murderous, whatever. It was there throughout all of it, this sense of experiencing. What happens in humanity, though, is there is a grabbing on to the personality structure and to this person that's moving in time. Like, I'm a good person, I'm a lawyer, I'm this, I'm that, I'm doing this, I've done that wrong, oh God, I haven't paid my bills, I haven't done this, blah, blah, blah. And there is this energetic contraction into believing that's who you are. And it feels like that person is looking and that person is experiencing. So like right now, you might think that I am talking to a you that's sat there, and you have this energetic experience of being sat there and me speaking to you. There's this space between us. I'm sat here and you're sat there, and there's this distance and there's time, and then I speak to you. Whereas actually that's all mental processing that's happening. That's not your actual experience. The actual experience is this awakeness, and in that a personality comes and goes. Structure comes and goes. So is it that you have to stop thinking in order to get to non-duality? It's not that you have to stop thinking. Thinking is something that naturally happens, like the breeze, like the sunlight, like the feelings arising in the body. It's part of this experience. So it's not that you have to stop thinking or that the character has to disappear. What disappears is this attachment to the character, this sticky tape that goes and the experiencing and the character become one. The experiencing and the sense of being and the character become this one entity. And it's almost like they have to separate, and your sense of self goes from being a person that's limited, moving through time, to to being the big self, to being who you truly are, which is that awake presence. So that's the shift. It's not that the thinking has to stop. Thinking is part of what this instrument does. It thinks about this, it thinks about this, that, it likes this, it doesn't like that, and it comes and goes. So reducing thinking and meditating and breaking the strong thinking process, the neurotic thinking process, can be super helpful, not to get to enlightenment, because who gets enlightened? Who gets there? Who is this person that you believe is going to get enlightened? But what it does is it reduces that person's seeking energy, and through that something else might be really realized. So when the person's really dense, the cloud, the fog of you, like is really big. So if you imagine a sky, so waking up is seeing the blue sky, and the you is this like dense clouds. And it's not that these clouds need to get to enlightenment. That's what the clouds always believe. They're like, I'm going to get enlightened. It's that they become less thick, and so there's less attachment to them, and then it's seen who you are. Who you are is this, right here. The person's always believing, though, it's going to get to enlightenment, but who gets to enlightenment? Who are you? Anybody that you imagine gets to enlightenment is simply another mental construct. So anybody that you imagine's nearer to the destination is simply a thought. There's nothing wrong with being able to mark things, like that's what we do in the human world. So we say, oh, our personality is getting better, or we're getting healthier, or you can see a shift in the personality, whatever. But it's also seeing that that also is simply thoughts arising in presence, and presence is who you are right now. Right here, right now. Okay, that's about as much introduction I can do tonight. Okay, so let's take some questions. Make sure the stream is going okay.